Stealth frames are those which can impede detection or defy traps and barriers in vaults. It's frames which remember that we're space ninjas, not Warhammer Space Marines. Invisibility, silencing, enemy incapacitation, or vault bypassing all come under this category. I'm going to rate each of the frames here in their ability to meet one or more of these categories of stealth, and give them an overall rank. Also, I've not explained them before, but the C, B, A and S ranks I assign basically break down into how much I'd really consider them for the role. C is technically yes, it does some part of the job, but it's not notable for it. B does the job okay, A does the job well, and S makes it look too easy. I'd like to quickly sneak in a quick mention for the subscribe button. It takes a second and will feed you plenty more content as I upload it. If you're already subscribed, you're amazing. I hope your Riven rolls are just as amazing. So let's meet our sneaksters. Starting out at C tier, we've got Atlas. If you'd asked me before I researched this video, is Atlas a stealth frame? I would probably have laughed and thought you were being sarcastic. As it turns out, he does meet the criteria in one aspect only. Even if you don't care for Atlas for anything sneaky, the main thing I'd like you to take away from this is I've considered every frame for their stealth carefully. If they're not here, it's because they're worse at it than Atlas of all frames. Atlas has no invisibility. He has no silencing. Lord knows he's not bypassing any vault security through any ability means. Atlas's sole showing here is with his Petrify ability. It turns enemies in a cone to stone, a base range of 14 meters and a base duration of 20 seconds. This maintains the alertness state, meaning enemies come out of it none the wiser, so long as they weren't alert when they went in. Do take note that the ability cannot be refreshed on an already rocked up target. Atlas himself can be unlocked after completing the George's Precept quest, and then farming the linked assassination missions on Eris. Keeping Atlas company at C tier is Baruuk. Baruuk's only stealth capacity is also in incapacitation with his Lull ability. Any enemy who dares look at him during the trigger duration begins to drift off to sleep. It's 25 meter base range and a 20-second nap time, which isn't too shabby. It also resets the alert status of any affected enemy. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a slow one to actually activate, making it less than ideal for stealth, hence the low ranking. Other forms of sleep are just far more swift. Baruuk's components are obtained from Vox Solaris standing, after already reaching the cap with Solaris United. Stepping up to B tier, we've got Ash. When it comes to being stealthy, Ash is basically all about his smokescreen ability, allowing him to go invisible. It'll stagger nearby enemies, though shouldn't affect their alert state, and will make you unseen by enemies, cameras and sensor regulators. Basically, true invisibility. Do note that this doesn't make you silent, just unseen. The base duration is only 8 seconds, so you may need to invest heavily in duration mods to get good use from this. Ash has no means of bypassing vault traps, but he does have an augment to extend his invisibility to his allies. Ash components drop from Manix, which I came across easily enough while doing defection missions like Saturn's Caracol. You'll probably get all Ash pieces on the way to farming Harrow. Banshee slips into stealth in a somewhat unique fashion in B tier. She cannot go invisible or bypass vaults. Instead, her passive silences all weapons, including gunblades which have no normal silencing mod. In addition, she can use the silence ability to make all affected enemies within the base 20 meter range deaf to gunshots, shouts and death cries for 30 seconds, as well as dampening her own audio. Enemies first touched by the ability will be briefly incapacitated. Do be warned though, enemies will still react to seeing Banshee and her allies when they're out of this incapacitated state. They just never hear her coming. As an added bonus, Banshee can use sonar to highlight enemies on the minimap out to a base 35 meter range, making it easier to spot and avoid enemies' line of sight. Banshee's components can be acquired from a Clan Dojo's Tenno lab. Equinox carries a B tier stealth ability with her Nightform's Rest ability. This casts a small 5 meter burst of instant sleep at a considerable 50 meter range for 22 seconds. It's got no real drawback aside from the cast cost itself, and opens up enemies for finisher attacks too. This can be a good one if you're looking to rack up a bunch of stealth scans and stealth kills quickly. And it can also be used to safely incapacitate sensor regulators in spy vaults. Equinox components can be obtained from the Titania mission on Uranus, although due to the many parts needed, getting Equinox Prime is probably lots easier, until it gets vaulted. Wisp rounds off the end of B tier as our first vault bypassing frame. Using her Will-O-Wisp ability, Wisp can send her spectral copy through laser barriers without triggering them, allowing for a quick bypass using the copy to teleport through. This same ability can also be used to make Wisp functionally invisible for a base 4 seconds whilst active. Do be wary though, the invisibility comes at the cost of the copy being visible. Alternatively, Wisp's passive means anytime she's airborne, she's also invisible too, including to sensor regulators and corpus cameras. This remains for a brief moment on landing, so long as you do not attack, allowing you to remain invisible with repeat jumps. Wisp can be acquired from the Roper Low list on Jupiter, after the Chimera prologue is done, somewhat into the main questline. Stepping up to more powerful players, we've got Limbo in A tier. Limbo trivialises Vault lasers by stepping into the rift, allowing him to pass through all of them undetected. In addition to this, Limbo can banish enemies into the rift or a whole area with his Cataclysm, while his stasis ability is active to freeze them. Cataclysm will nuke any corpus cameras and some weaker units, though for everything else you're on a timer. Once stasis runs out of its 15-second duration, all affected enemies will become alerted. This includes sensor regulators. Either get done before your time is up, or kill them before they can shout. As a quality of life extra, Operator Mode can be used to dip out of the rift during a Cataclysm. Limbo can be obtained from the Limbo Theorem quest after unlocking Europa. Calling back to true invisibility, we've got Loki with his aptly named Invisibility. He's very similar to Ash in his invisibility means, but the duration is 50% longer, making it a more reliable period of stealth. In addition, Loki can silence his attacks with his ability augment Hushed Invisibility, saving that extra slot on your weapons for something else more pertinent. Being just that little bit more ninja friendly over Ash is what makes Loki A tier. Loki components are earned from the Neptune assassination at Samathi. Octavia also boasts true invisibility with her metronome ability, which can be innately shared with her allies. With this buff, allies only need to spam crouch a few times nearby to get 15 seconds invisibility. This one can be refreshed, allowing Octavia and any close staying allies to be permanently cloaked. Like with most invisibility, this doesn't silence attacks or skip anything vault related, just good old invisibility. Being able to keep it going indefinitely and innately shareable earns Octavia her A tier rank. Octavia is a bit of a grind to get, requiring Octavia's Anthem quest for the main blueprint. Complete this quest first before seeking the components to avoid related spoilers. And lastly in A rank we have Wukong. His Cloudwalker ability, as I mentioned in mobility frames, has a pretty crazy amount of riders to his general flight. In a stealth sense, it makes him invisible, though it does alert very nearby enemies with a stagger, and it's able to bypass all vault traps. There is the downside that Wukong cannot be both invisible and fire at the same time though, which slightly diminishes the power of this ability. Marginally. I mean, if I were rating Cloudwalker overall, I'd give it God tier, but in just a stealth consideration, it holds at A tier. As an extra, Wukong's passive, Immortality, has a 1 in 8 chance of making Wukong truly invisible for 30 seconds. As it's chance based though, it's not something really you can rely on for stealth. Wukong, like Banshee, can be acquired from a Clan Dojo's Tenno lab. So then, holding the podium spot right at the tippity top, we've got S tier's Ivara. Ivara can go invisible indefinitely using her Prowl ability. It moderately restricts her movement, though her speed can be enhanced with ziplines, dodging, or the Infiltrate augment. This augment also allows Ivara to completely ignore vault traps during Prowl. In addition to this, Ivara can cloak herself and her allies using her Cloak Arrow from Quiver, and this can be attached to anyone other than Ivara, or her Sentinel if she has one, to keep them and very nearby allies invisible for the entire 12-second duration. This can be refreshed through recasting, though Ivara is limited to 3 simultaneous cloak bubbles. But we're not done yet. Ivara can also put enemies and open world animals to sleep using her sleep arrow for 10 seconds, within 6 meters of the arrow landing spot. And to top it off, Ivara has a passive 20 meter enemy radar to help keep track of who is where at all times. Altogether, that's true invisibility for her and her allies, the ability to incapacitate enemies, and to bypass vaults entirely. Yep, definitely S tier. Seeing as Ivara is so great for spy missions, DE thought it'd be funny to hide her components in spy vaults, split across 3 tiers of mission levels. You'll have to find another way to get through those missions first. Or, just get the Prime version. That wraps up that when it comes to our sneakier frames in Warframe so far. While these frames may go unnoticed, your support does not. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like to tell that to me, YouTube and to other viewers. Want to see more? Don't forget to subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what else you'd like to see me cover next. And as usual, stay sneaky, stay cheeky, and fight well, Tenno.
Aha, you cannot shoot me, I am Baruuk. I don't ask, you can hit me from behind.